All right, all right, all right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amazing, fun, a little bit sexy live video in my Facebook group, the Portrait Photographers Resource. Today, we have an extra special guest. I want to introduce you all to the amazing, the fabulous, the beautiful Jenn Bruno Smith. Jenn, say hi to everyone out there in Facebook land.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I am super stoked to have you, Jenn. So, before you're a boudoir photographer based on the East Coast, but before I let you, or have you share a little bit of information about yourself with us, we have crossed paths many, many times in the past at conferences without even realizing it.
Yeah.
We've both been speakers, at WPPI, at ClickCon, and it wasn't until this past WPPI where we actually finally met and hung out a little bit. And I remember when I hung out with you at Diablo's, the Mexican restaurant in the Mirage. I remember thinking, wow, this woman's pretty amazing. She's talented. She's got this amazing business. I gotta have her on the group, and that's why you're here. You're here
Well,
to help me with this image critique.
I'm super excited to be here. I love it.
Yeah,
Thanks for
yeah. Thank you so much. And I know you have your own Facebook group and everything, and I'll let you get into that in a second. But basically, before we jump into this image critique, for those who don't know you, why don't you shed a little bit of light on who you are, what you're about, and anything you want to share with the world?
having me. Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. My name is Jenn Bruno Smith. I am a professional boudoir photographer. I'm based out of Middletown, Delaware, but I really travel everywhere to shoot. I've been speaking at conferences now probably since 2019. So I definitely have had my feet in the education world for a while. I run the High Rollers Club for business for photographers on Facebook. So you can go ahead and check that out. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Boudoir by Jennifer Smith. And I also have an education channel that I post a lot of education things. And every time I go live, I post in that group. So that's also a really good place to find me as well. So you can follow me on Instagram or on Facebook. But I'm really passionate about teaching business. My studio has closed at just under seven figures for the last 2 years. And I'm
Is that
hoping to
it?
break that seven. You know what? I'm hoping to break that seven-figure mark this year. I'm right there. It's nipping at my heels. So I'm almost there. But I love teaching photographers how to run profitable and sustainable studios. And I'm really passionate about it. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just showing our viewers a little preview of your portfolio, and one thing I really love about your work, besides, it just being awesome, is you offer like two different styles with your boudoir. You offer like a more light and airy style, a little
Right.
bit more like playful, I guess you could say, a little more whimsical, and then you have like the dark and moody stuff, which is a little bit more edgier, a little sexier, which is super cool to see that you can. And I'm sure this was a very intentional, smart business decision on your point, but it allows you to, reach different
Yes.
audiences.
Absolutely. And it allows me to have clients coming back. So our sales
Okay.
average is last year we ended the year at 6,100 for our sales average. This year I'm sitting around 5,300 the last time I checked. So I'm having really high ticket sales coming back over and over. And sometimes they'll actually come back and shoot on the same sets. Again, they just like it. We just work through different poses. We have different posing sequences that we do when we have return clients. But yeah, just having another offering for our clients to come back to, a reason for them to stay, because the easiest, the easiest pool of water to fish in is one that you already know. So we are definitely trying to do that by giving lots of different looks and sets and feels to our studio.
I really like that. Clearly, I'm, the fisherman. So I can absolutely relate to that comment there.
I figured you would. I knew that you would like the fishing talk. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's so inspiring to see, a woman in business just absolutely crushing it. So, at least you're very inspirational to me, and I'm sure, everyone in your Facebook education groups and all that are inspired as well. So, I am very humbled, very thankful that you're here spending the next 90-ish minutes with us.
yeah, I'm happy to be here. I took a quick look at the work and it's gorgeous. So I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll dive into it in a second. For those of you who are new, this is your first time watching. Basically, the way this is going to work is we have 20 images that we're going to be critiquing tonight, 20 images that you have submitted, and then we're randomly going to choose one winner to win a free canvas from our sponsor, ProPrints. So, without further ado, I'm thinking we'll jump into it. And by the way, one thing I want to add is I am looking at the comments to the screen on my right. So, if you see me looking this way, it's because I'm looking at all your comments. So, if you have any questions or any comments or feedback or you have any hair care tips for me, please let me know. I will definitely get on that. So, here we go. We're going to go ahead and jump into our first image of the night. Let me look at my details here of this photo. This one comes from Scott Tibbles. Now, Scott told us that he set his couple up on a covered patio with two lights behind the couple. He used a bare Geekoto GT200 facing their butts, about 6 to 10 feet behind him, with an additional GT200 with a blue gel to eliminate the black wall. Then he used a 300-watt strobe with a 25-inch round softbox as the main light, camera left, and this was the result. So, um, you know what? I'm going to start just because weddings are a little bit more my realm, and the next photo is actually a boudoir photo. So I'm going to start here, Jen, if you're cool with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so Scott, this photo is garbage. Next photo, please. I'm just kidding. Scott's a cool guy, and I'm just messing with him. No, I really love the fact that their expressions here are just so freaking genuine. Like, even though this was like a setup and a staged image, it's very clear that they're genuinely having a good time, and I think that's something that can be really hard to capture. So kudos to you. The light is excellent. My only main critique here, Scott, would be a little bit with the post production. We're seeing some really kind of strong highlights, especially on their faces. Some specularity, some blown out skin tones. That's something that you could probably really easily fix. Just in Lightroom, just to kind of remove some of those highlights. I'm finding it a little distracting, but that's really the only main critique I have. Jen, do you have anything else that you're seeing that maybe I'm not that could help improve this image?
Yeah, so I'm now speaking as a boudoir photographer, right? My job is to make I shoot men as well and couples, but primarily we shoot females. So speaking from like a female perspective, most of my clients, their number one concern is their midsection.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna go right to like just that part, which you could do in post production. And even though like you pretend, it's a beautiful image. I love the expression. I love, where they are. And liquify should be used, in my opinion, in sparingly. It should be used to accentuate and to make your client look like their best version of themselves. It shouldn't be used to like do crazy body manipulation. In my studio, that's how we use it. So for me, what I would do on the small of her back, I would give her a little like just a smidge, and
Mhm.
then I would give her a little on the stomach and maybe fix the dress like around the navel area, which I don't think that's actually her belly button. I think it's her underwear line. I probably would have like cloned that a little bit so that it's just a little bit more flattering to the woman. And something I teach most of the time, the female, or even in female partners, there's always one female that's more of the decision maker. But generally, like the female really drives a lot of the emotional purchasing decisions. So if you make the female look good, typically, you're more likely to sell more. But I love her expression. And those would be like the two tiny things I would have done just to kind of make it a little bit more flattering for her, because in that moment she's thinking more about the emotion and not necessarily about posturing her body to look good in a picture. Do you know what I mean? So she
Yes.
might be more likely to use that as a large piece of wall art if you just do those tiny body manipulations. And it's not like you're changing her body. She might have just been breathing or holding herself in a different posture than she would have been. So
Yeah, that is wow, that is some phenomenal feedback. And I take the very same approach as well. Like when it comes to post-production, in a situation like this, especially a photo where, I could very easily see them, ordering a big, canvas for their wall or something. Little tiny adjustments like that can really make all the difference and can
yeah.
probably, in some cases even help, you get a sale if you're doing IPS or
Yeah,
you're doing additional
for sure.
prints. So
Yeah.
cool. Well, Scott, I hope you're paying attention. That's some amazing advice. We'll go ahead and move on, but thank you so much for submitting this, and thank you, Jen, for that insight.
Yeah.
Next, this photo comes from photographer Allison Diller, and I'm not recognizing the name, so I'm assuming maybe she's from one of your
Allison.
groups.
Yeah. Yeah. I do know her very well.
Cool. Well, why don't you jump in and give your
Hmm,
2 cents on this photo then?
sure. So I love the side boob. I love like the her expression is very peaceful and she's very like into herself, which I really love. Personally, I like seeing the neckline a little bit more. I like knowing that the neck is there. So when I probably would have had her drop that shoulder. But I understand like the shoulder up is kind of coquettish. But I do typically like seeing that neckline. And the main reason is like when her head is tucked in like that, you're losing part of her face. So it's not only that you're losing her neck, you're losing part of the face too. So I think that you could still accomplish like the coquettish look while you're still seeing the neckline and dropping that shoulder. But I do really like the side boob. I probably would do just a smidge of frequency separation, like underneath the boob down the torso line, just because I see like a little bit of like shadowing there. But I think this is really pretty. I do like her expression. And I think like the slightly like matte look works for this. It looks
Mm-hmm.
antique. So I like that. That would be my only critique. But also, just with any critique, like that is, a personal change that I would have made when I was shooting to fit my style. But this might be not the style that you shoot in, which I know it's not. So, taking that with a grain of salt that, what I do as a creative posing choice works for my studio, but might not work for yours. And that's totally okay too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would agree with you. I think my biggest thing too is I'd agree with you on the neck. With her kind of bringing her chin down, you're getting these wrinkles that happens to everyone, right? When you put your chin down like this,
Right.
she may or may not find like that about this photo. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're posing. The ultimate goal, especially with boudoir, is to try to make your client feel as comfortable as they can in their own skin. So little tiny things like that are something you need to pay attention to. Let me ask
Yeah.
you, Jen, how do you feel about the lighting on this? Do you like, because you have such a broad highlight, especially on her right shoulder. Do you find that distracting at all, or do you think maybe um, she should have potentially lit this like short lit, for example, like camera to the right of the camera?
So I do think that that's a little distracting, but the part that distracts me the most is how it ends at the bottom and like a very
Hmm.
like harsh horizontal line. So I
Yeah.
probably would have lit it a little bit more evenly.
Okay.
I feel like that's like it's a very harsh spotlight. And I feel like if you're going to do that spotlight, it should have gone down just a little bit more because the really interesting part to me is the curve, right? I'm always shooting for curves, and where that light cuts off, you're cutting right at her curve. So if you would have just dropped it like a little bit lower, and you can kind of see that curve of her hip there that's going, zoop, I would have dropped it a little bit more so I could see that curve. Because for me, that is, it's all about the curves. And if you're, most of my clients will not buy just a picture of their back, right? Unless there's some really interesting composition. Like I bought a picture of myself once that Marco Ibanez took, and it was really cool. And I was like, on the ground with my hands like this underneath my back, and it's literally just like my vertebrae. And it's a really cool picture. But typically, people will not buy just a picture of their upper back. So you need to make
Okay.
sure that I like the side boob, but you're accentuating that curve. And then I would potentially even have liquefied just a smidge of her arm, like the upper arm, just underneath the armpit where it's coming out just a little
Yep.
bit. I probably would push that in just a little bit more, just so that it looks like there's a little more side boob than what there actually is. So,
Absolutely. Cool. Great advice as always. Um, yeah, I could talk a little bit more about lighting and everything, but I don't want to take up too much time. So, yeah, really fun image. Thank you, Allison, so much for submitting this. We're going to go ahead and move on. This next photo comes from Katina Orlando. Looks like
love.
another kind of boudoir glam style shot.
Yeah, I
that we
love
have
this
here.
one.
Yeah, the model or the photographer?
I love the image. I do know Katina, who's amazing, but
Oh,
I
okay.
do love this image. It's really pretty.
Yeah, it's definitely has that kind of light and airy glamour glow. I'm gonna point out the most obvious thing that, from a technical perspective. Um, Actually, two things that I want to point out right away, and that's first, um, right towards the bottom of the frame, you have that really, really strong overexposed highlight. And one thing that you need to be aware of is your eyes are generally speaking going to go to the brightest part of the scene, right? The where there's the most highlights. So I personally find that a little distracting, and that's a really easy fix. You could just clone that out. Clone some material, copy some material from her train onto that. It's going to help get rid of that.
Hmm.
The other thing too, one thing I just know from experience talking to many clients over the years and getting lots of feedback is, and you might be able to attest more to this than me, Jen, because you're a female and also because you have hair and I don't. And that is the flyaways. The flyaways,
Yeah.
women don't like flyaways on their head, and when you're backlighting someone with hair, the backlight will really accentuate those. So that's a simple fix in Lightroom or Photoshop to get rid of those. Those are the two things I'm seeing right off the bat that I feel like I would change. The strong sun coming from the back, it is bright, it is a little distracting, but I do feel like it adds to that light and airiness of the image, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. It's just a stylistic choice. That's really all I have to say. I'm sure you have something to comment on regarding the pose, but
I do.
what's your thought?
Okay. Did she say her settings in this? Did they put
She
background?
did. She
What
did
are
actually. She said she used a Nikon Z6 II with a 50 lens, shot at 1.8. She didn't say what
there we go.
shutter or anything she used.
The aperture was what I was looking for. So,
Okay.
um, so I usually will shoot at 2.8. I really like shooting wide open like that too. The problem with shooting that wide open is if you miss your focus even slightly, you're out of focus.
Yeah.
So on this image, the focus is on her chest and not on her face.
Yes,
Um,
you're right.
so I would have still probably shot this at 2.8, but I think you probably could have shot it like 4.0 too and been fine. Just because she's standing and the way she's standing, right? Like her head is kind of pulled back, so it's on a slightly different plane anyway. But so that's the main thing is you want to make sure that you're nailing that focus and even though she's standing, you're shooting so wide open that I would have focused still on her eyes. My focus is always on the eye that's
Yep.
closest to the camera, because she's turned like that. So for me, it would have been like her right client's right eye. I would have focused on instead. So the first constructive criticism is to just watch where that focus dot is falling and I think you probably could have change that aperture just a little bit and still accomplish the exact same thing, but been a little safer with your focus. Um, so, as far as the pose, I do like separation between the arm and the body because I feel like having that negative space, if you would have even just kind of put the arm back here and like had her hold the dress, you maybe would have had, I don't know what that dress would have done, but, or the robe even, but you maybe would have had some negative space there between the arm and the body. And then you could have easily taken your liquify and go, zoop, just that little bit, just the tiny smidge with the hip, because people love to see that little curve in the back. I love her expression though. I like that it's, a little like elusive and like she's. And I also, even though it's blown out, and I would fix that too, it is a little bit distracting. But I
Yeah.
like how it trails off. And I will do the same thing with sheets. Like if I'm shooting someone on a bed, I'll pull the sheet up and away and go down low so it looks like I'm right in bed with them. And I like that this has that same sort of feel with it. Um, and I like the flare on the, camera right. I do like the flare. And I agree with the backlighting and the flyaways. That's like, it's a lot of work
Yeah.
but you could actually, that wouldn't be that bad. You'd probably just clone that right out and you'd never even be able to tell because it's so bright behind her.
Yeah, and
Um,
I've been using the new I think it's called the object removal tool in Photoshop. It's a new
yeah,
tool that recently came out, and I've been loving it. It's
yeah.
really good.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think you could do that without a lot of work.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
But yeah, I think this I like the mood. I think it's really pretty. I love her expression. I love the styling. But those are that's my two small critiques. Good job,
Awesome.
Katina.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katina. Moving on, we're going to go ahead and go on to a photo that was submitted by photographer Jenn Davis. We got another Jen here.
Love it.
Um, yeah, I love that short lighting. For those of you who watch regularly, you know I love short lighting. So, absolutely gorgeous and flattering light. What do you want to say about this? I'll let you start this time, Jen.
Yeah, yeah. I love the lighting. Her eyes are look gorgeous.
Hmm.
So about the pose, I really like. I said it with the last one too. I would still probably separate that front arm from the body. I like to see the
Yeah.
separation there. And as far as like in retouching, see how her dress dips a little bit, like where the chest is, where the boob is. I probably would push that up just a little bit, like right
Okay.
that little dip right above. Again, you're not changing her body, you're just changing the dress. And it's going to
Right.
make a big difference to her because women notice that sort of thing. Like that's the first thing I saw was that dip where the dress was because that's where her strapless bra is, right? Like that dip
Hmm.
is where the strapless bra ends. So I would just push that up just a smidge. I'm doing it with my mouse, like you can see. And then the other part is the small of her back. I would have pushed that in just a smidge too, because again, like that's the zipper. So for me, again, it's not like about changing the client's body. It's about doing the things that will make it more true to the client's body, right? Like
Yes.
that's definitely the zipper coming out in the back. So I think just by pushing that in just a little bit, I also probably would clone a little bit of the hair. The other thing that I do when I edit is I don't like to see separated strands of hair. So I would probably also just clone a little bit of hair here in the front on the other side of her shoulder because females especially like to see their hair looking very good. So I would probably fix that as well. But I like her facial expression. I think it's really pretty. Her eyes look great. Styling is great. Makeup looks really good.
Hmm.
Um, and then the only like small styling suggestion I would have is, and this is something that I would have fixed. So clients do hair and makeup with me on site, and before the hair and makeup leaves, I am going over it with a fine tooth comb, making sure that there isn't anything that I want changed or that I would have to fix later. And I'm
Right.
not sure if it's the lighting or if it's the makeup, but on her right lip, the lip line, it looks like there's a little bit of a darker lip line at one place. So that would probably have been something that I asked to change in hair and makeup.
Okay.
Or I would fix it later. So I don't know if that's lighting or if it's like part of the
It
lip line.
kind of
You know
looks
what
like lighting a little bit, but not 100% sure.
I mean?
Um,
Yeah.
well, yeah, well, actually, and you know what? She did provide a behind the scenes shot to give us a little bit more context of what was going on here. One thing you mentioned, Jen, is that you would have probably had the model take her arm off her body a little bit. Would you have had her like bring her shoulder back and have her hand on her hip, or what would you have? How would you have posed her to do that?
Yeah. So I love seeing separation. And so when I'm posing, I'm always going to like, and you already did it with the hair, like dropping the hair to the back, but I would have like definitely dropped that shoulder and just separated it just a little bit. Like you don't have to put your hand on your hip. But you could put your hand like on your thigh and just bend that
Hmm.
hip back, bend that arm back. So you see like a separation there. I just think it's so much more flattering than just having it straight down. Um, but also like dropping that front shoulder down and then really turning the head to the side is often pretty flattering too. But you know what? You could do both and see which one they like. It wouldn't be a terrible edit like to do both. It shouldn't take you too much time to fix both, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, great. Well, and then Jen, Jen Davis, I want to commend you too on your light positioning because one thing I think that you did really well was you were able to get just enough light on her to where her earring is lit up as well. And that's something that I feel like a lot of photographers would overlook and accidentally, maybe bring the light too far to the right. So, that her ear is in shadow. And that's something you were able to accomplish pretty well, actually. So good job on that as well.
I think it's a
Really,
beautiful shot. I think
it
she looks
is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, both Jens, on that photo. We're going to go ahead and move on to another photo. This one, it comes from Radon Burton, and this is a little bit different than what we've been seeing so far. And this is kind of cool. I
I
like
love
this.
this one. I love everything about this. I love it.
Yeah, it's processed so freaking well. And
Yes.
I might need to pick your brain, Radon, sometime on how you processed this. Well, all your images, I feel like you do a really good job with post production on.
It's
And
gorgeous.
yeah, I mean, and this is a typical. She's from Wyoming. This is your typical Wyoming like setting, darker skies, cloudy days. Uh, there's a story here, and I want to know what the story is. And it's I kind of I want to know more, right? And I almost feel like there would be a little bit more impact if you know like the cowboy was turned towards the camera looking back at the horses, but then there's another part of me that's saying, well, no, I kind of like the mystery of him looking away and riding off into the distance. So this image is kind of pulling me in all different directions, and in a good way though, because it's really making me think about what's going on. I My only probably suggestion here to would be a little bit on the crop and the composition. So I'm feeling that he's a little center weighted, and I would have almost preferred it if we panned the camera up a little, so we saw a little bit more sky and a little bit less foreground, or the opposite, pan down a little bit so you see a little bit more foreground. Personally, though, I like the sky, so I would have liked to see a little bit more of that. But that's my only really main critique is just the composition. I think is a little center weighted, um, but it's hard to critique an image like this just because it's so subjective. What do you think, though, Jen?
I think this is fantastic. I love this. I saw this and I immediately like created a story in my head about this man and I know nothing about him, but like immediately I was like I have a whole story about this person in my head. I love I actually like how he's facing away because it lets
Okay.
the it lets the person looking at the image create the story in their head about this image. And I love the sky. Is this the actual sky or is this an overlay? Because holy smokes, this is just
Well,
stunning.
I had a conversation with Radon in Vegas, and she told me that a couple times, every now and then, she will do sky swaps. But I never knew that until she told me because she does a phenomenal job at it.
Yeah.
So it could be real. It could be a composite. I'm not sure, but either way, it's fooling me because I have no idea. But
No, you can't.
yeah.
It's beautiful. It's stunning. And I love like this could be a painting at a restaurant, like on a wall. Just it's beautiful. I would love to follow your work, Radad. I would think this is beautiful. I
Yeah,
love
yeah, yeah. The story in my head that what he's doing is he's going to the strip club.
He's going to stop it. No.
I'm just kidding. I just wanted to think of something completely outlandish.
He's headed off to the strip in Vegas.
Yep, he's
Literally,
going to WPPI.
he's headed to WBBI. Look at him.
Yeah,
Um,
no. What a cool photo. What a cool photo.
no, I do. I love this so much. And I'm looking at the comments, and she said that's the actual sky.
Yeah, I see that now. That's
That's amazing.
wow. Love it. Well, good
I like
job, Radon.
yeah, this is beautiful. I would love to know the story of this image too. Like, did you know him or like were you just like did you just pass by him? How did you find this person and this beautiful smoky sky? Like this is just stunning. Amazing work.
Yeah,
It's true.
Radon does a very good job of finding situations like this.
It's
Oh no,
gorgeous.
wait, she is saying, oh, okay, it is a composite. So
That
it was a smoky day, but she did replace it with a cloudier sky. So see, that's what I'm saying. She's really freaking good at that. And I would never have known.
it's beautiful. Like it does
Yeah.
not You would not have known. It literally looks like a painting. It's
Yeah,
beautiful. I love it.
awesome. Good job, Radon. Uh,
Yeah, really
A
good job.
plus, A plus. Okay, moving on here. This next one, oops, going too far forward. Wait, there we go. Okay, this next photo comes from Sabrina Huff. Um, though this is the one with the balloons. Make sure we got the right image.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, cool. Um, Let me take a look. So I'm trying to think like if this is. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here because it to me there's something a little too like CGI-ish, and I can't quite pinpoint it. I'm looking at, and I think what it is for me is I'm looking at the highlights on the balloons, and I'm looking at the lighting on him, and it doesn't really seem to match the environment very well. And I'm kind of wondering, what's going on. Like, and the white balance as well. There's something off with the lighting, the color temperature, um, but it's a really cool concept.
Yeah, I mean, I love Little Boy. I have three small children, 10, 8, and 5, and I could see my youngest son doing this exact same thing. I love the facial expression. I love that. That's beautiful. For me, the background is distracting and it's too green. It's too much green.
Yeah,
I and it does. It doesn't look like it goes together. Not because of lighting, but also I feel like the tones, because he's wearing a lot of warm tones, and then
hmm,
like the greens in the background are too cool. So for me, like it just doesn't like go together, the composite. But if he was composited into like a wooded area with more browns, I feel like it would have worked better for me. I just feel like there's too much
yeah.
green in it. I love him. I love the boy. I think this is an adorable subject and I love his expression and that shot really well. I just feel like it's a mismatch with the background.
Yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying. It's just the tones of the image and the separation's a little, yeah, it's a little off. But I love the concept though. It's so
Mhm.
cool. Like there's definitely a story here as well. Like why is he holding a bunch of balloons?
Yeah,
You know?
the only like small thing I would have changed is the weight. Like I understand, with a kid you want them to have a weight on the balloon so you don't lose it, but I
Right.
feel like the weight on the balloon takes a
A little
little bit of the
distracting.
magic away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
agree. I was thinking the same thing.
yeah, I probably, if you weren't going to do it, I mean, you could have always, next time, if you do this again, like have him put the weight lower so that it's easier to composite or, to take it out later because the weight is like through the middle of his hand. So it might be a little bit of a pain to fix or to take out.
Yeah, and I'm seeing the barcode tag on the bottom of the weight as well. So
Yeah.
just little tiny, little tiny things, but cool concept though. Really, really cool concept actually.
He's really
So
cute.
what's up?
He's really cute.
Yes, definitely,
He's a
absolutely.
cute little guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, awesome, Sabrina. So um yeah, really cool concept. Little bit of just refinement, I think, and you'd have a pretty awesome photo here. So, thank you for submitting. We'll go ahead and move on. This next one comes from James LaSalle. He used a 7200 with a Canon camera. He positioned the sun behind the model. This shot is part of the main shoot. No strobes, just natural light. Okay, taken in Vegas. So yeah, really, the light on her is actually really even for shooting in what appears to be pretty harsh sunlight.
Yeah.
Would you
Um,
classify this as a boudoir photo, or what would you?
Yeah, people always, I think they get very like specific about what boudoir is. And I don't think boudoir can be defined because someone could be wearing a dress, like, and it could still look very like boudoir-esque, right? So I feel like boudoir can be defined. There's such a spectrum for what it is. But I would do this exact same pose and styling. I have clients all the time that come in one jean shorts or jeans or, a
Yeah.
partner's shirt. So I definitely think that it is considered under the genre of boudoir. I think it's really pretty. Um, you know, my just a few like small things. You
Hmm.
want to be aware of the hair. Again, like I see the hair separation, and because you have such harsh light coming from behind, I probably would have tried to fix that while I was shooting it. But then the other very, very small thing is she has lipstick on her hand. So I probably would have, I would probably take that out, the lipstick on her hand. I think it's a great pose though. I think she looks great. She's obviously a model, so she looks fabulous. Uh, yeah, the other very small thing is her eye makeup and the shirt. I probably would have done like a little bit less when you're styling if you had the choice. If this was a client, right? Like I would go with more natural eyes just so that you don't get like such a strong clash between the red and the peaches. Um, but the pose I think is beautiful and the lighting is beautiful. I think you did that really, really well.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, I would really, I agree with everything you're saying. I do find that just that highlight on the top of her head just a little too harsh. I know it's a lot of work, but one thing you can do is you could use a scrim to really diffuse that sunlight a little bit, but then that requires, of course, having an assistant. So if you don't always have that available to you, it's very hard to do. That's really my main critique, but I do love how even the light is on her entire body, and that is something
Mhm.
that is very challenging to capture
Yeah.
when you're shooting, situations like in situations like this. So James, for what it's worth, you did a great job. So
Yeah.
kudos
It's
to you.
beautiful. Yep,
Yeah,
beautiful.
cool. I love that flannel too. By the way, that's super cool. All right, next photo. This comes from John Hawking. And okay, maternity session, I'm assuming.
Mhm.
So I think, if I remember correctly, John, I think this is another photo from a same the same set that you submitted a couple critiques back, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm pretty sure I had the same critique then that I'm gonna have now, and that is I think her pose is a little too stiff. And one way you can really break it up and give her body a little bit more shape is by having her not be so flat footed, right? So it looks like her feet are just right next to each other, which is kind of creating this like just this effect where her dress just has her body has no shape, right? So if you can
Mhm.
have her bring one of those legs up, and in a dress like this, you can even over exaggerate it. Have her come up on one toe, get a little bit more of a bend in her knee.
Mhm.
Um, is even for pregnant women, it's going to make her look a little bit more flattering. But
Yeah.
all the pose aside, the framing is really cool. The lighting is cool. I love how you use like what I don't know what it is in the foreground that you have there, but whatever that is, it's pretty neat, and I like how it frames her. So from a technical standpoint, when it comes to lighting, this is really cool.
Yeah. So for me, the lighting, because she's wearing pink, I feel like there's too much of a difference between like the bright reds and the pink. So
Okay,
I maybe would have used like greens or a
different colors.
complementary color, yeah, to the pink. Like if you're, so for me, like if you're not going to match it exactly, then I'll use like an opposing color. Like I like pinks and blues, I like pinks and greens together. I feel like the red is a little harsh. Like the red is
Okay,
very aggressive. I feel like it's an aggressive color to use with such like a soft image. And I like how she's looking down peacefully. I enjoy her face. I like that.
yeah.
But like Sean was saying, so like there's no shape through her body though. So like I would definitely, for me, I always bend the front leg and I call it a Barbie foot. So I have them go up on their toes like a Barbie. And then you can even like really pull that front, that bent leg forward. And then even like if the dress has a slit, so you see some leg, so there's some shape in it. But then the same with the arms, like there's no separation. So when your arm is right beside your body, you're extending your body by 2 inches, right? So you've extended her body by like inches, right? If
Yeah.
you would have separated that arm out, you then show the definition in the body. And so you know that the body has ended. And women want to see that their body is ending. They don't want to see their body looking bigger than what it is.
Right.
So we want to show them the best version of themselves. So you can do that by creating separation. And I will always have, you can definitely do both arms, but you could have just, if you would have turned her, or maybe even had her facing forward so you could see that separation in her arms from her body, or turn her to the side and put one hand on top of the body and the other hand below the bump. And the other thing I do is I always curve the hands slightly, even if, because not every belly is the same, right? Some bellies are not as round. So you can make them look rounder by bending the fingers and curving them a little bit so that it's sitting on top of the belly. And it's just a little bit more flattering like that instead of interlacing the fingers. And it looks more delicate because as soon as you interlace the fingers like that, it looks like one large hand and it makes the hands look larger and less feminine. And in maternity pictures, especially, you're emphasizing the femininity of the form. So you want the hands to look even more feminine. So I'm always being sure that I'm showing the sides of the hands because as soon as you turn to the front or to the back, it's more masculine. So, and they look larger. So I'm always,
Yeah.
doing the sides.
Love that. Yeah, that's a very good posing advice. Yeah, and I color and to go back to your original comment too, color theory when it comes to photos is so big. It's so important. It really can make or break an image. Actually, I'm surprise, surprise. I'm looking at buying another suit today, and I am trying to play with. I was playing with the colors, and I was actually bringing like a suit in Photoshop, like playing with the color of the tie and the
Yeah.
pocket square and playing around with color theory to see what colors would accent and accentuate each other. And in your head, you might think, like for example, I thought, oh, like this blue and this white's going to go together in this my particular example, and it didn't look good at all. So yeah, color theory is something that's so important in
Yeah.
photography. And those are some really good points and some really good things to think of. Um,
Yeah.
and it's the pink maybe with the red isn't the best choice. Um,
I
so
think just the tone of red in general. Like red is a very like masculine, like strong power color. And
yeah,
I think it doesn't match the tone of the image because she's looking very soft and feminine. And so I think the red looks a little aggressive.
yeah, I agree. Well, cool, John. As always, thank you so much for submitting. Always love seeing your work and seeing how much you've grown as well. Okay, going ahead and moving on to the next photo. This one comes from photographer Randall Mena, and yeah, no comments on this. So Randall has a very unique style, a very unique processing style. He does a lot of quinceañeras. He does a lot of photos with these like big dresses. And I'm wondering if the dog in the shot, leaving the dog in there was intentional or if that was an oversight. I kind of feel like it might have been intentional to leave the dog in there.
I kind of
Um,
like the dog. I would retouch out the leash, but I do like the
yeah,
dog in there, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the composition, the framing of this is pretty incredible. I'm seeing a little bit too strong of a highlight on her face.
Mhm.
I would tone that down just a tad. Um, I would if this were me, this is just me personally, I'd probably almost put just a very subtle vignette on the outside of the image just to kind of bring a little bit more focus into the center and into the subject. But
Mhm.
that's just a personal choice. That's a little subjective. Um, what do you have to comment on?
So I love her. She looks like one of those holiday Barbies that I used to get when I was
Hmm.
little. So I think that the subject is really cool. I agree on the face though, because it's so bright. It almost looks like her well, you're losing the top of her head, but also like from far away, it looks like her chin is a lot bigger. Like she might have a double chin, even though she definitely doesn't. I just feel like that light, like because of the sharp line on her jaw, it makes it look like there's more there to me. But I do love her dress. She obviously doesn't. But the other thing, like I said, I would retouch out the leash, but the sky is distracting a little bit for me,
Okay.
because like, the camera right is white and then the camera left is really like blue.
Yes. Yes.
So it and it's not all blue. Like there's some holes in the trees.
Yep.
So like that to me looks distracting, like too manufactured, I guess. But I do love
Yep.
the subject.
Yeah. I would actually, now that you're saying that, it's a lot more apparent. I would also, I mean, to nitpick a little bit more too, I think I would also like to see a little bit like the bottom of her train as opposed to it getting cut off. So maybe if it was possible, Randall, I would almost suggest maybe like taking a step back, just so you can get a little bit more. And actually, he did submit a behind the scenes photo of what it looks like. So it looks like he absolutely did have the opportunity to step back a little bit more if he needed to, but um, yeah, but you can even just tell like from the behind the scenes photo that her skin tone's a little bit darker, than it is here because the highlights are a little strong, a little blown out. So just really small things, Randall, that I think you can do to
Yeah.
improve this. But I've seen his other images and his processing style on a lot of his photos are absolutely incredible. Um,
Yeah.
so he definitely knows what he's doing, and he is a it's always really awesome to see what you're doing with your photos. So thank you again for submitting as always, Randall. We're gonna go ahead and move on because we're running just a little bit behind where I would like to be. This next photo comes from Brian Green, and he said that if it's not obvious, a blue gel was used here.
um,
I'm
I,
gonna let you take this one, just because
I
yeah, this
think
is your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really cool. I think someone said before about the last one that they thought that that image, the girl in the flannel, was more like fashion or something. Wait, did someone say that, or am I imagining that? Did someone say that?
Um, on this photo or
Or no, the girl with the flannel. Someone said, "Oh, it looks more like
oh,
glam or
like
more."
glamour, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think this looks like fashion or glam. Like you could put her in anything in that pose, and it's because it's not really about sex. I feel like, or about
Right.
being sexy. I feel like she is like partying. Like I think this is a really cool shot. I
Yeah.
love the composition of it. I like how you have the lines beside the curves. I like the juxtaposition of that. And I often, when I'm shooting, I'm looking for spaces that have a lot of lines because I shoot for curves so much. So I love the composition of this. And I know that, and this is a very like I guess small thing. I would have liked to see more of her face, but I'm sure that was intentional. The other small thing is having her eyes closed here. I feel like maybe would have been a little bit better just because I can tell her eyes are open and it kind of takes a little bit away from like the party. Like I feel like if her eyes were closed, she would have been more in the moment and it would have looked a little bit more believable and less contrived. But I think it's a really cool pose. And I think it's, when you're doing like really cool poses, it's easier to forget about the face. But I like to always remember, like I don't like when, for me personally, when models or subjects are looking off into the distance in a boudoir genre. Just I feel like it looks more natural if their eyes are closed or if they're making eye contact to whoever
Okay.
is looking at the image. But and also for this one, the reason is that her eyes look a little like they're kind of like uh I don't know. I don't know. The eyes are, if her eyes were closed, it would have been better. And if her face was a smidge lit. But I love this. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is a really kind of unique perspective for sure. I Two things that I'm going to nitpick a little bit is the seam in the wall towards the right of the frame. That vertical line is going straight down into her eye. I think that
Yeah.
is a little distracting. So just repositioning yourself a little bit might make this a little bit stronger. And also the angle of which it was captured from, probably changing your direction or your angle, whether you shot a little bit further up down on her or you shot a little bit down shooting up, would make a little bit of a difference here. I don't necessarily know if I like the fact that the photographer framed this at eye level. I think it might work a little bit better if he went one way or the other, a little bit more dramatic. Because when you have such a dramatic pose like this, you can get
Mhm.
away with doing a little bit more of a dramatic angle as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that. And the line going down to, and someone said something about the eye contact. I never pose anyone looking out the window, and I actually don't. And I was telling Sean about this a few days ago. I follow the stripper rule. Let's talk about strippers again,
oh
where when you
boy.
go to watch someone dance, they're not ever just looking off into the distance, right? They're looking at themselves or they're looking at their subjects, at the clients. So I just feel like that connection is a little bit more there. They're either connecting with their self or with themselves, or they're connecting with the subject or the client that's looking at the image or the camera. So I like the connection. So I don't actually ever have someone looking off into the distance, because I can tell you exactly how many times I have stood by a window with a cup of coffee in lingerie looking out the window. Like, never. So for me, like, it's just not like a super authentic, like,
I do that
genuine.
every morning when I wake up. I don't know what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
I
Yeah.
mean, well, you only have mountains looking back at you. I have neighbors and people walking down the street. So in like the suburban Delaware. But I don't know. I like the connection between the camera and the client and the subject and herself.
Abs-
So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, very cool. Great feedback. Great photo to discuss, Brian. I really appreciate you. And thank you again as for coming to our pre-WPPI workshop, as well as a couple others of you too, who have submitted. You guys were all there. So awesome to see you guys there and awesome to see you submitting. Okay. Next photo. This comes from Chuck. Where is what Chuck's Chuck, I'm so sorry. I butchered your name last time too. Chuck Savadalis. I think that's what we're gonna go with. And this is a portrait of Virgil Larson from Larson Farms Turkey Ranch. This was shot with a Sinar F with a Schneider Super Angulon 121 millimeter f8 on T Max 400. I don't know what any of that means other than this was
is
shot in
that,
film.
yeah.
So
Why, I'm curious why film and not digital, like why film, I wonder.
but maybe there's a story behind it, but
No, I
it
would love
it
to know.
it it looks like it all it kind of almost looks like I think it might be an infrared image.
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
think this might be infrared. I'm not 100% sure. Um, what I will say, sorry, I'm reading the comments. Nikki said picture or didn't happen, Sean Lara. That was, I'm assuming, referencing me in my lingerie looking out the window. Um, yeah, sorry, you got to subscribe to my OnlyFans for that, Nikki. But anyway, it's I love I
That's like,
love the composition. I love the idea of this. It is such a unique photo, and we have never received anything like this in this group. And I mean that in the best way possible because it's so freaking it's funny, it's goofy, it paints a picture of who he is, and I think this
yeah.
is so cool. I I'm not stoked on the post production though, and the toning. I don't know if there's a story or reasoning behind like these pink hues. I'm not big on it, and it becomes a little bit more apparent. And I'll zoom in. It becomes a little bit more apparent when you look at the horizon line. And oops, wrong. Going back here, and you look at like some of the buildings in the background. There's a little bit of ghosting around the buildings. It becomes a little bit more apparent there. And so I don't know what the intention with the post production is. The pink for me isn't really working though.
Yeah. I wish okay, so first of all, I think the composition of this is really cool. Like
It
the
is.
fact that all the turkeys are facing the same way in the foreground, I think is pretty cool. And when I first saw this image, I was like, what is this story? Like, what is this? Who is this person with all these birds around him? So I think the composition of this of the image is really cool. But for me, the toning is just it's too much because his skin is the same color as the sky and his hands are like
Yes.
modeled, and you don't know if this was taken like, in 1980 or like, because the styling, you can't tell from the styling either. Um, and that might be intentional, but I I'm big on skin tones, and so and also like the his face is not as in focus or tack sharp as I would like it
Right.
to be. And I don't shoot film. My dad shot film. I do not shoot film, so I can't like the birds look more in focus than the man
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. That's exactly. I can't add anything else to that. That's a great description. But yeah, so cool though. I freaking love this photo, Chuck.
It's
Really, seriously.
cool.
Thank you so much for submitting this because
Yeah.
this kind of made my day a little bit better seeing this photo. So thank you. We're gonna go ahead and move on. This next photo comes from Ed, and Ed wants to share that he captured this photo, this model, with this Larissa Couture flying dress with a one light setup. So I am going to share with you uh, something that you need to be aware of that, and I make this mistake all the time, honestly, and I'm trying to get better about it. And it's admittedly really hard to do with one light setups, and that is to get even lighting. So on this subject, so if you look at the light on her face compared to the light on her legs, it looks
Mhm.
like she has two completely different skin tones.
Yep.
And admittedly, it is very hard to do, especially when you're using one light and not no modifiers. But it's something you got to be aware of. And that's my biggest critique is you have the really strong highlights on her face, a little bit blown out even, and then just no light on the rest of her body.
Yeah.
And a couple other things I'd like to point out too. You're cutting off her toes. That's a big no-no. Either crop her tighter or back up a little bit so you can get more of her body. And then also her feet are just a little bit too close together in my opinion. So she kind of looks like she's scrunched up like this really tight, you
Mhm.
know. So have her a little bit more flowy with her body, with show off some of her curves, get a little bit more of that separation between her feet,
Yeah.
get her arm off her body like you've been saying a couple times, Jen.
Yeah.
Um, what do you want to add to this though?
So a few things. So first of all, and I know this was happening really fast, and she was probably like, swirling the dress, and then her hair got caught in her armpit. So I'm always cautious of the hair coming down through the
Yeah.
armpit because it kind of looks like it's armpit hair, and I don't like that look. Now, like I said, like it is if the client has they have armpit hair, like it's cool, but she obviously like doesn't. So, and it looks like the hair. So that's something that before she started swinging the dress or after, I would have been like, hey, push your hair to the back on this side that's closer to me so that I'm not catching all that hair popping out of the bottom of her. The other thing is because you have that one light, it's casting a harsh shadow on her frown line. And she's young, so she really doesn't have that in person, probably. Do you know what I mean? But because of that, if you look closely at her face, it looks like she's almost sneering almost. And so that frown line, like I would lessen that with some frequency separation because it's not actually her. It's an artifact of the light that you're using. It's the shadow that it's creating on her face. And then because the top of her is lit, and like Sean was saying, you have different skin tones. Like, so when I'm showing a client, like, the back of the camera, and I'm shooting bright and airy, I will intentionally blow it out before I show it to them because it gets rid of a lot of the skin imperfections. Am I going to use that image later? Like, no, but it's the one I'm showing to them so that they look better on the back of the camera. So you have like skin that looks pretty good on the top, but then if you look at the skin on the bottom, her legs are just like
Yep.
not looking good at all. Like she's got little bruises and you know, like tiny little capillaries you can see because she might have been cold and little goosebumps. And so like the other part is like if you're going to do all natural skin then cool. But if you're going to do half natural and half not, like not just the bottom half not being lit, it also looks unretouched because the top half is so lit. So if you're not going to light the bottom half as much, then you still have to then you have to do more skin work because so it at least looks like it matches.
Absolutely. Yeah. And all great points. And Radon's asking, She wants to hear from me how I would light her evenly with one light, and that's kind of that's a lot to talk about right now. So I won't go into I don't have time to go into too much detail. But basically, it's all about finding that sweet spot with your light placement, right? So excuse me, having the right height, having the right distance, so you do get that full coverage, and that's really where having kind of a more of like a spotlight pattern, having her like nice and high and then angled down a little bit is what's really going to help light her evenly. That's something I teach in my workshops in person and stuff. And it's one of those things that I just kind of have to show you in person, but it is all about finding that sweet spot. So um, that's the short answer to a very long answer. Um, but anyway, yeah, thank you so much, Ed, as always, for submitting. Really appreciate it. Hopefully, you take some of this advice to heart. We're going to go ahead and move on. This next photo comes from April Barker.
April, this is a whole vibe.
It is a vibe.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like fairy tale.
yeah, and I want to start by saying I freaking love the processing on this. I really do.
Beautiful.
It is just like I'm not a big fan of dark and moody like editing styles, processing styles, but this is one that I can get on board with all freaking day long.
It's beautiful. I love that she looks like she's in a castle, like just good eye contact, like, and I also love, and I don't even know if you meant to do this, but like sometimes whenever people put the arm up behind them, they put it too close to the body and then it looks like the arm is popping out of the head, but you pulled her torso back a little bit so you can see like the line of the arm, which I appreciate very much. um and the only tiny thing I have is that the baby's breath or whatever greenery this is cutting through her face just a little bit. Like I would have just moved that twig just a little bit so you were able to see like her lip and her chin a little bit. But I love the whole mood of this and the processing and
Yep.
of it. It's
Yeah, now
beautiful.
I'm zooming in. I can see that a little bit better.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a very good point. Just getting rid of that right there.
Mhm. But
Super
it's
cool though. Yeah.
gorgeous.
Hmm.
Yeah, love this
Awesome.
one.
Yeah, Becky McNerdy says that this photo slaps. And I agree. It does slap. It absolutely
It's
slaps.
beautiful.
Yeah, no cap, fam. I actually don't know what that means, but I know the kids are saying it. So
What is it?
no
No,
cap. Your kids
I
say
don't.
that?
No, I don't know
It,
what
it's
that
it's a
is.
I don't. It's a thing that kids say. They say no cap. I think it means um like no worry. What does it mean?
No.
Like no lie, like for real. Yeah, it means like for real.
Oh,
Okay.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. No cap.
Yeah.
I like
For
this.
yeah. Yeah, no cap.
It doesn't
Okay.
sound cool when I say it. I think I'm gonna refrain from saying that. I'm gonna stay in the not cool corner and just not say that. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think this is a beautiful image.
absolutely. Yeah, I really don't have anything else to comment on this, honestly. Just
Stunning.
yeah, it's stunning. So
Mhm.
cool. Thank you, April. Super appreciate you. Moving on. Oh, another regular contributor. We have a photo from Daniel Bray. He captured this with a single strobe and a 6 foot
I love
parabolic umbrella diffused, pointed down, and feathered on the model.
this is such a good shot. I love this. I love her pose. I love the asymmetry of it. I love the styling. I love that she looks really relaxed. Like she looks like a really cool person that I would love to be friends with. Like I just think this is a great shot.
Yeah,
She just looks
I
really
agree.
chill. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the pose here. I'm looking at a lot of different things. This is a very like editorial type of photo.
Mhm.
I feel like this
Yeah.
reminds me. We've had him here as a speaker before, as a guest before. But this reminds me of the type of photos that my buddy Jared Fix takes out in Hollywood. He does a lot of celebrity portraits and fashion and editorial stuff, and this definitely reminds me of that vibe. I yeah, I like it a lot. I'm trying to find something to
I don't
nitpick.
I don't have any nitpicks for this. I love this. I think this
It,
is a great shot.
I would maybe take down some of the highlights on her left foot. Um, it does seem a tad brighter than the rest of the image. So that would probably be something I might do, especially because her right foot is a lot darker and it's in the shadow a little bit more. So maybe just bringing down those highlights slightly might make it a little bit more of a balanced photo. But yeah, I mean, I can't other than that, like
Yeah,
it's
I
good.
mean,
It's great.
this is beautiful. If it was a shoe ad, I would have lit up the other shoe just a smidge, but this is beautiful. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it looks like an ad, magazine ad for Adidas, which I agree. It
Yeah.
absolutely does. Um, well, super cool. And oh, Scott Tibbles is just joining us. Dude, yours was the first image we critiqued. So you're gonna have to watch the replay of this, buddy. All right. Well, hey, super, super awesome, Daniel. I'm sorry we don't have more feedback for you. Just take that as a win, I guess, that you're just that awesome. So
It's beautiful.
okay, moving on. This photo, who just come? Oh, this photo is from Michael Hall. 180-200 with a softbox to the left of the camera. Yep. Okay. Cool. Let's see here. It's a very well balanced photo, I would say. It's it's when you got the nice bokeh, the nice background blur, the framing's good. He's not too center weighted. You still see a lot of and as such, you see a lot of the environment. You got those really nice lead lines from the fence. So
Yeah.
technically, yeah, it's a solid image. And even his posing he seems very confident, but yet relaxed with his pose and with what he's wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He seems
yeah,
like a nice young gentleman.
he
I like
does.
it. Yeah, he just looks like a nice kid, and he looks like someone that we would hire to, like, do yard work for us or something. Like, he looks like a nice kid.
In his suit.
In a suit. Well, not in a suit, like, wear something else, but, yeah, he looks like a really nice kid. I think that your posing is good, it's appropriate, like, it definitely, like, you know I think he looks nice. I think it's a nice picture, nice like, a parent would buy this picture.
I
Like,
was just about to say that. Yeah,
right.
it's
At the end of
it's
the day, right, a mother would buy this and be like, "My kid is so cute. He's such a handsome boy." Like, I think that this is a good picture.
yeah, and he is yeah, it's not like the type of photo that he's gonna look at this and be like, oh, I look badass, or
Right.
this is edgy. It's clean, it's sellable,
Mhm.
it is the definition of a professional
Senior
quality
portrait.
portrait. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, and at the end of the day, like, you want the I'm sure you did some other ones with him where he looks a little bit more badass, but this is like the perfect one for the mom or the dad to buy, or the parent, and to put as a canvas on their wall, right? Like, this is beautiful.
Yeah, and these are the type of photos, I always encourage people to take. I say, hey, like when it comes to like when I'm doing, like I just wrote the training manual, for example, for my associate company that, I recently started. And, in there we say, hey, get the safe shots, get kind of the boring ones where they're looking at the camera first, get those out of the way, and then get a little bit more creative. And this is a perfect example of that safe shot, right? It's not ultra creative, it's not edgy, but it's lit well, it's a nice expression, it's the safe shot that's gonna sell, and it's gonna, establish him as a professional. So
Yeah.
yeah. So nothing else other than that to say, Michael. Really solid work. Good job, buddy.
Yeah.
Really good job. Okay, this comes from Matt, just simply Matt. And this is it. Let's see here.
There we go.
Okay, this was taken this is going to be more in your realm. This was taken at Copley Square in Boston, Massachusetts. I don't know if that means anything to you. Doesn't mean anything to me. A
I
friend of a local. What's up?
I love Boston. I have not
Oh,
been
okay.
to this location, but I do love it there.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that bridge. A friend of a local photographer and her husband kindly did some modeling for me while I was visiting. Cool.
Mhm.
Okay. I know you see what I see, just because we can communicate telepathically. So I'll let you jump in and start.
Okay. So, okay. So at first glance, the sky looks pretty cool, but I think it's too stark of a difference, and the overlay is not blended. I think as well as it could be like it's too much of a difference. The sky doesn't match like
Does it
the
match the lighting on the couple?
yeah, yeah. So that would be like my first thing. I mean, I think you just need to tone it down, right? Like lower the opacity on that sucker. Like it's very stark. Um and someone said the sky is inside the lamp
Well,
too. So
and Radon is the sky swap master, so
yeah,
I would take her advice to heart.
as we just saw, like she kicked ass on that sky. That was
Yes.
incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so the posing for me, um, I feel like the gentleman is okay, but the woman, I feel like it looks like a half look, but it's not like an intentional half look. Like it's not like, like, oh, you just caught us having a moment. It's more like I'm cheesing for the camera, but it looks kind of awkward. Like I would have, if you were going to have her look at the camera, I would have had her turn her head a little bit more. And one thing, like for women, that I feel like portrait photographers forget but boudoir photographers do a really good job at is pushing the hips back. And when you do that, it gives you more of a line. And even, for men, it's really easy, to be like, oh, wait on one foot, right? But I feel like for women, it's often forgotten that just by making that small change of arching the back and pushing the hips back, it gives them so much better of a line. And you're already kind of, missing the lines because the dress is so fluffy. And I know that it was windy because the ruffles are ruffling, right? But by putting her weight on one foot and then pushing the hips back, you would have a much better line, and she would just look a little bit more feminine. But for me, it's the facial expression that looks a little off. Like he's into her, but she's like kind of like, I don't know, half into the camera. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's something that, as photographers, it's our responsibility to make our clients laugh and feel a little bit at ease. And a lot of times what I do is I crack stupid dad jokes that they can't help but laugh at because they're so dumb, right? My jokes aren't funny. They're dumb. And it makes people laugh and little do little giggles, right? One thing I like to do with my couples is I try to find things to relate on them with. So like for example, if they're like a Star Wars fan, I might say, okay, like think like tell let's say her name is Mary, tell Mary who you think uh like the I don't know, like the sexiest Star Wars character is if you were to cosplay her or something like that, I don't know, just something ridiculous, something funny to get that natural expression out of her, so when you're in this intimate pose it feels a little bit more natural, it feels a little bit more like she's engaging with the man, or vice versa, they're both engaging with each other. But
Yeah.
um other than that, yeah, kind of what everyone else has been commenting, they're um that it's just there's a lot going on, right? Like the fort, like if you look at the buildings in the background and you look at the trees, they're all out of focus, right? And but then you
Mhm.
look at the sky and it's in focus. So
Yeah.
it just needs a little bit more post production, or not even as post production, but just a little bit more um intentionality in how you want to bring and tie the image together. And then, as we mentioned, the light's a little bit off balance. One thing we didn't already comment on were on the right side of the frame, you see those people on the bridge right there, and they are a little bit distracting as well because the bridge is being used as a lead line, right? You start at the couple, and then your eye moves down the frame to the right, and then where does it lead you? It leads you right to those people. So just a lot of little things that you like, a lot of little things that you can fix here that are really going to help uh, tie this
Yeah.
image together. And yes, thank you, Nikki. I would agree. This is a great word, intentionality. Indeed. Oh, Joanna Rodriguez says, "Oh, there's so much information that it seems a bit confusing." Yeah, exactly. Just a lot going on.
A
Needs
lot.
yeah, a little more intentionality with bringing the image together as a whole. So,
Mhm.
but hey, I hope we didn't beat you up too bad, Matt. We're just trying to help you be a better photographer. Overall, I do think it's a nice image. I love your composition.
Mhm.
I love the framing. Just
Yeah.
work on those things a little bit.
I
So
agree.
good, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, this next photo comes from Josh Adams, and I laugh because Josh is such a character. He really is, and I love hanging out with him at WPPI every time he's there. But this is from Josh Adams. This was actually during a shootout at WPPI at the Dry Lake Bed in Vegas. He grabbed a shot of this model using the Nikon ZF and the Tamron 35 to 150. Okay, cool. So,
I love this shot. I love it. Um, okay, so if you were going to post this on Facebook or Instagram or run an ad with it, you're going to want to clone out those nipples because there's zero chance that this will pass through with even a slight bit of areola showing. So I would absolutely clone that out if you plan to do anything with it. I like the cropping too. I actually like how her head is cropped out of this. But the other thing that I would probably retouch is the underarm area. For me, that's
yep.
distracting. And a client would absolutely, for me, that would be an objection for them buying the image. And also the skin tones, right? Like it's hard when you're outside because you have like the harsh light and like and what happened the bottom of the leg is more in shadow or did he say how he lit this? This is natural, right? Or is there
He did not say how he lit it. I'm gonna assume this is natural light.
yeah, yeah. So the skin tone on the bottom of her leg, like the skin tones look a little off for me.
Okay.
And even like on her torso, it looks like she has a bruise, like right under the word wild. It could
Yep.
just be like modeling from the sun, but it looks like a bruise to me. So I would the skin work I would have worked on a little bit. I would work on a little bit, and definitely the underarm area. But I love this shot. This is a great shot.
Yeah, and you probably know more about this. Well, you not probably, you 100% know more about this than I do since I don't shoot boudoir. But we were talking a little bit earlier about liquefying, not necessarily to manipulate and change your body from what it is, but to help maybe correct things due to certain poses and everything. And one thing I'm kind of seeing here that looks a little off to me, going back to the nipple, is it looks a little elongated, and I feel like almost using the liquefy tool to push push it in a little bit to help make it a little bit more round might
Mhm.
look a little bit more natural if you decide to keep that in there. Would you agree with that, or am I just weird?
Uh, so you can do both, right? Like, if you're going to use it for marketing, I would absolutely take it out because there's no way you're going to get this through the sensors.
Yeah.
I so sometimes I will manipulate the chest if they are laying or if the bra is like hitting them in a weird place but for this one I probably would not. Um
Okay.
I probably would not because it looks like it I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I probably would have let it slide and then see if
Okay.
the client said anything about it. Um I don't know. To me, it looks like she may have had a boob job and it was like done that way. So I don't know. I would see like what the client would want to do with that
Gotcha.
before I would mess with it. But I think you could push it in just a little bit on the left side and she probably wouldn't even notice it all. Like I
Gotcha.
think that that would be totally okay and it wouldn't make a big deal at all. And I think in general when you use liquefy to make their body look like it actually is just when it's changed because of lighting or positioning and you're, making them the best version of themselves, I think it's fine. I don't think she would even notice, but I think you probably could just push it
Yeah.
in a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well,
Yeah.
cool. And Josh, one thing I want to throw in too is I do like the your choice of actually not including her face in the frame.
Yeah.
I think that's unique, and it's bringing more attention to her unique body artwork, and that's I think that was a really smart choice. The
Yeah.
only other thing, speaking from a car enthusiast, is just change the car and we're good. So
I was waiting for you to say something about the
yeah,
car. I was waiting for
sorry,
that. Yep.
sorry,
That
not sorry. Fight me, but V6 Camaros are not cool. So yeah, or even V8 Camaros. Okay, moving on though. That's just my personal opinion. Thank you, Josh, for submitting. Couple
that's
more photos. we got, and then we're almost done. This next photo comes from Becky, just Becky. Oh my gosh, Becky, look at her butt. That's how that song goes, right? I don't remember.
That is absolutely how that song goes. Yep,
Okay. um,
absolutely.
yeah. So this is Becky Nerdy. Okay. Um, wow, 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 wow. So cool. Um, I have a couple of comments that I have right off the bat, but I want to process this a little bit more first.
What is this, Becky? Were they on a train? Like, was this what is this place? How did also, I mean, how did you get did you yeah, I guess I'm wondering like how you did that. Was it naturally lit like this? Or like is that how the environment is? Um I
She shot through a textile machine that was on
wow.
display since this was at an old textile mill in New Bedford, Massachusetts. She put a
Wow.
purple and red gel on opposite sides and one light above the subject. So that answers that.
That's
Um,
pretty cool. I love that.
okay, so I have said this many many times in on these critiques and in the group, whatever. When you're not always, this is subjective, but when you are taking photos of a couple or any sort of or any person, especially one that has a little bit darker hair, if you're
Mhm,
shooting them against a black background, you need some way to separate them from that background so they don't get lost. So I
mhm,
know you're already using three lights here, and it's quite a bit, but adding a fourth light as a rim light or as like a hair light or a kicker to help
mhm,
give them that separation would would elevate this photo even more.
mhm.
Um, because again, you look at the top of their head, it is getting a little bit lost in that background there, and it's going to create a little bit more of that 3D effect, which in this case absolutely would work and add so much to the image because you already have such a complex, excuse me, environment. Um, I Going back to the composition again, I don't love it that they're right in the center of the frame. I do think you can get away with it in this image though, simply because you do have those leading lines in the foreground pushing you towards the center of the frame. So it does work in this situation, but I still think I would have preferred maybe angling the camera down or up just so they're not so heavy weighted or heavy centered in the middle of the photograph. Um,
Yeah. I feel
yeah.
like the camera angle too makes them look really short. Um, so I don't know if it's the camera angle or the lens, but she almost looks like she's sitting like in some ways when I'm looking at it. So I'm
Mhm.
not I feel like just because like there's so much going on the sides, like it's almost like they're an afterthought instead of the subject. I don't know, but this it is cool. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, I agree. One other thing I want to add too is she seems a little too stiff, and the reason why I'm saying that is because she's holding her flowers like I don't have a bouquet here, but she's like pretend this is a bouquet here. I'm gonna put my screen on so you can see me. But basically, she's holding the bouquet like this. Right, it's just a little stiff, it's a little unnatural. I almost would have preferred that she like took the bouquet and just held it like down at her side, right? Because he's in
Mhm,
a very relaxed, casual pose where his left hand is in the pocket, and I feel like she should be doing something a little to match that a little bit more, where her flowers are just maybe hanging down or something. It seems a little um a little like I said, stiff. And
mhm,
one thing, when you're doing images like this, when you have three lights and you're trying to be so creative with, all the technical stuff, sometimes your posing will fall a little bit to the wayside. And I have made this mistake many, many times, where you get so focused on the technical stuff, you forget about the posing, right? Um, and 9 out of 10 times, a client is going to pick the photo because it's a flattering pose and it makes them look good,
right.
over the creativity of the image. Not always, but that's
Yeah.
usually what they tend to gravitate towards. So, just Becky, just a couple things to keep in mind. But seriously, the creativity and the thought process behind creating this image is so freaking good. So really, really, um, really solid image, and I do want to commend you for doing this on a wedding day, like it's so hard to be able to put all this creativity and thought on a wedding day while you're thinking of a million other things. So, again, kudos to you. Okay, ready to move on, Jen?
I'm ready. Let's go.
We got two more. We got two more. This next photo comes from Kurt Walton, and I actually recognize exactly where this is. This is at Valley of Fire in Vegas,
Hmm.
and I did an engagement session there once, and I love I love this area. It is so beautiful. And when people think of Vegas, right, they think of well, they think of strippers and they think of partying and they
We've talked a lot about strippers tonight,
we
Sean.
have. This is the third time we've talked about strippers. But yeah, they think of your typical Vegas party scene, right? And there's so many people that don't realize that an hour with 30 minutes to an hour outside of Vegas, there's all this beautiful landscape and scenery there. And that's
Yeah,
honestly why Vegas is one of my favorite places, is because there's so much really
same.
cool stuff. So,
Yep.
yeah, I love her look, her gaze. It's so piercing, and um her facial expression is really cool. I I I'm not so sure on her crouched pose with
Yeah.
this outfit. Like
Yes.
she kind of looks like she's ready to pull out like a katana or something, like and fight me to the death. And I don't feel like the outfit matches that vibe.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's more because it looks like she's missing a leg. So,
That
and
too, yes.
yeah, I mean, she has a leg, but it looks like she isn't above the knee amputee and it's just a stump there. So I would, if she were going to crouch her in that position, I would have switched to I don't know what you would have done. I probably wouldn't pose like, I like that she looks fierce and she looks like she's ready to attack, which I think is it's
It's
very
awesome.
powerful. Yeah. And her gaze is very powerful too, which I love. But it looks like her stump is floating. It doesn't look like she has a leg. So that I like to see the length of the limbs, and her arms are so long and beautiful. And then her legs look like they're itty bitty bitty. So
Yeah, and look at the detail too that Kurt was able to capture. Like I'm zoomed in right now on the photo, and like her eyes are crystal
eyes are
sharp.
amazing.
Her skin tone, you can see even just her little goosebumps on her skin.
Yeah,
Real technically, Kurt, this is a phenomenal image. It's lit
absolutely.
perfectly. It's in focus. It's got, in my
Yeah,
opinion, the right balance of sharpness versus blurriness between the foreground and the background. I think the only thing with this particular photo is just the pose. And
yeah,
I'm sure, I know you went out there and you got many more photos with this model. So I'm sure you have some great ones in there too.
sure.
So I probably just would choose another one of those to share or to display in her portfolio.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, according to Kurt, she did have two legs, so we're good.
Oh, good. And nothing wrong if she did not have two legs, and that was awesome. Like, we will photograph you the way you are, and that's
Yes.
beautiful too. But if someone has two legs, I like to be able to show them. It's just people have two
Right.
legs, and then one looks like it's missing when it's not. That's when I start to, have a problem. So, but I think she looks stunning, and obviously, technically, this is perfect, gorgeous. It's perfect, but it's just I like nice long limbs, all the limbs to look nice and long and complete and
Absolutely.
present.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that's going to bring us to our last photo of the night. This one comes from Jasmine. Oh, actually, before we do that, this was a behind the scenes shot that he shared with us. And as you can see, there are two legs, so
Oh,
we're good.
love that. Perfect.
Yeah. All
Perfect.
right. So last photo. This one comes from Jasmine Bibby. Looks last photo is also boudoir photo. So I'm gonna let you close it out with your opening remarks.
Yeah, I love this. I think this is beautiful. I love the mood of it. Um, this is a very slight critique, but there's a hair, like a strand of hair that's coming from her chin because she's partially in silhouette, right? But you can see
Hmm.
like the light between the hair. So I would have pushed that hair to the back so I could see the line of her face. And this
Yes.
is an objection I get from my clients a lot. A lot of clients don't like their profile, don't enjoy seeing their profile. So
Hmm.
unless they have a really great profile or one that they've already said that they like. And I find that through, discovery with the client, through pre-session questionnaires. If it's something that I'm questioning, like I will not shoot completely in profile. But a way you can easily fix that is by turning the head to the side and dropping the hair, and then it's more of an anonymous shot. But I think this is beautiful. The only small change I would make is just fixing that hair that's popping out from the bottom of the chin.
Yep.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Really, nothing else I can add to that. I think maybe, and you're the posing expert, so let me know what you think here. I almost feel like her right leg is like extended out a little bit too like long, like she's reaching and she's having struggle reaching. So I would almost, in my opinion, have her bring her left knee forward on the couch more, which in turn is going to allow her to get a little bit more bend in her right leg. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, that's kind of the only thing I'm seeing here that maybe I would improve on. Also, um, she's so well framed in the image, but her right toe is being cut off, and I feel like I would like to see that. Otherwise, it doesn't really make much sense that we see all of her other limbs and all her other features, but we don't see the toe. So I'd probably back off a little bit, show that whole the entirety of the body.
Yeah, I think this is a beautiful shot though. And you can easily get a few sellable images just from this pose. And like Sean was saying, you can do another one right after where she's crawling on the couch where, that back leg is more forward and then the front leg is the knee is bent down on the couch and you can still extend. And then you can walk around to the back and do a booty shot, right? And then you can turn the face and get a glam shot. So I'm sure you got all of those. But this is a great core pose to grab like five more like circling around her. So this is
Yes,
this is a good core pose.
yes, absolutely. Um, Well, cool. That's all I have to say about that. I mean, I love everything that we've been seeing. It's been really cool seeing you all here. And Jen, thank you so much
Me.
for yeah, for coming aboard and doing this with me. Like I said at the beginning, when I met you in Vegas this year, I was like, yep, her, she needs to be on my image critique next month.
And
So
here I am.
thank you.
Here I am.
Um,
Thank you for having me.
before Yeah, absolutely. And before we announce the winner of the Pro Prince giveaway, we had a few people that kind of tuned in a little bit later. So for those of you who missed Jen's intro, Jen, real quickly, can you give us the skinny? Any workshops coming up? Any education resources that people can find you at?
Yeah, sure. So I have two conferences coming up. I'll be in Atlanta at the Bouquet Summit, and then I'll be. Oh wait, no, ClickCon is first, and that's in Detroit at the end of July, and then I'll be at the Bouquet Summit in Atlanta the
Uh-huh.
second week in August.
That's Andres. That's
Yes,
Andres.
I'll be at Andre's.
And
Yep.
actually, so speaking of Andre, he is going to be an image critiquer in the next couple months here.
You know
So
what? He's wonderful.
yep,
I love
he's going to be
him.
on. So
He is a smart, smart man. I love it.
yes, yes, he is. Yes, he is. So, um, cool. Well, Jen, once again, thank you so much. One quick announcement that I want to make to everyone, to the world, speaking of workshops, cat's out of the bag. I was trying to keep it a secret, and it just came out. I will be at Shutterfest. Um, so if you are there, please say hi to me. No, I am not teaching. So don't ask me to do an impromptu photo walk or anything like that, even though it probably will happen. I've already gotten roped into doing two presentations at booths somehow. But I'm going just to hang out, say hi. If you guys see me there, I would love to have a drink with you, get some food, whatever. Um, we are randomly picking a winner for this for the Pro Prince canvas. Number 6. Who's number 6? Sabrina Huff. Congratulations. You get a free canvas print from Pro Prince. Please send me a message and we will get that off to you as soon as possible. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Jen, thank you for being the guest critiquer. My work wife, Amber Henry, has been bugging me for months that I need a send off. And I think I finally have one, or at least the workings of one. And that is, I hope you all stay dope nasty. So, word.
I don't know about that one.
Well, we're working on it. It's a work in progress.
Yeah,
But
maybe I have to think
anyway,
about
guys,
forward.
Yeah, let me know if you have any suggestions. I still need to send off. Maybe I'll do a poll actually. We'll do a poll in the group. All right,
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah. Thank you all. We'll see you soon. Good night.
Bye, guys.